Is it on?
Are we live?
I just want
Okay.
to say, not my idea, her idea. I'm sorry to
See-
bug you again.
Now, what did we discuss this morning about, how did it get started? You got the name Billy Bob
Stinker.
Stinker. You wanna
Because
tell-
I was so bad at my proposal to my sweetheart. So she said, "You're a stinker. You should be more romantic."
He thought it was being romantic to propose in front of a
So
whole bunch
you
of...
don't have to go into detail, thank you. I got the message. I will call you. Do you know Lee? He proposed to her 100 times, once on standing on his head.
Yeah, he did. It's true. Oops, I'm losing this thing here. Yeah.
Oh, sorry about that.
Lee also said I had shell pink ears. He said the most interesting things that you would never imagine.
Shell pink ears?
Yeah, like little seashells. Okay, anyway, it was, okay. This keeps falling off. I'm not having a good success here with this thing.
It's because you got shell
This
pink
myth
ears.
here, it says it's a myth that cancer rates are reaching epidemic proportions because they've been the same. See, it says colon cancer deaths, for example, per 100,000 men, and it says from 1940 here up to 1990, it stayed the same, right? Let's look at the next slide. The truth is, this is the true graph of what's going on in colon cancer, but it seems people don't want you, certain people don't want you to know this. Well, why would they be like that? After all, aren't we interested in curing cancer, aren't we?
Yeah.
So why do we want people to feel complacent about, oh, gee, the rates haven't gone up when they actually have? Why would they do such a thing? I want everyone to stand up who has had a family member or a friend or someone that they know closely who has cancer or had cancer. Please stand up.
Oh, dear.
Okay. So what are you guys eating? All right. Edgar Tatro and Tree Frog. I need that. I need what we put back there. It has my stuff in it. You'll have to forgive me. There have been interviews and talking, and I laid down for 3 minutes a few minutes ago, and this is all. This is it. Yeah. There are some things that I'd like to show you about Mr. Tree Frog. Tree Frog is famous, or was famous before everything happened to him. You want to hold this up for me? Now, what does that say?
It says, your cancer, their power.
You know, we've been talking about power, and you saw the kind of power you can have on false flag incidents. And what's heartbreaking is that we have other incidents going on. So I'm going to read to you an interesting little letter. And I wish to heaven that you had known this man. Oops. It goes like this. Dear friends around the globe, because Tree Frog, if you didn't know Ed Sherry, he is probably he was the most important researcher that we ever had who crossed the bridges between all kinds of people. He would send me and say, look, these are your enemies, don't tell anybody, things like that. And he was on our side, but he was able to step over and get information from the other side. Ed Sherry is dearly missed because he died last year. But let me read this to you. He said, I had a fantastic year in 2013. Sorry, I can't see it otherwise. Some of you have not, please forgive me. Some of you have not heard from me in a while, and that's because I've been busy chasing away evil spirits. June 7, 2012 was told by the Cleveland Clinic that I had stage 4 lung cancer. So they prescribed a chemo drug which cost $36,000 for a 6-month supply, and that might not be enough. Research showed that during clinical trials, people died or destroyed their livers, and I told the doctor that this was not for me. I never went back to the Cleveland Clinic again. After buying 30 books on Amazon.com about cancer including many printed by Credence Publishing in the UK, I was amazed to read how many people solved problems by boosting their immune system while eliminating items from their diet that were making the cancer grow. To make a long story short, I eliminated the following: all sugar, all meats, all alcohol, all tap water while using pure water. Elimination of all stress was essential. From September through December, I received 2 weekly IV infusions, 3 hours each, of 200,000 units of 100% vitamin C. Okay? It's also, you can find that on YouTube. By January 2013, 75% of the cancer had disappeared, and I was feeling much better. By December 2013, he quit because he only had one spot left. A year later, he was dead because he said, oh, what he said is this. I've been cheating lately, eating some meats and just a little sugar, and he quit his vitamin C. I had told him about the vitamin C infusions, which is so important. I met him at the conference that December, and to talk to him. I couldn't get him to come to me. He's over there, come on, Ed, I want to talk to you, you know. Finally, he comes with his head down. I said, Ed, what in the world? I said, you don't look so good. He said, I quit doing it. I thought I was cured. He died a few months later. We miss him very much. Just a warning, when you start some of these diets and things, if they help you and all that, why stop? Can you hear? You couldn't hear me, huh? See, it's a mess there. Okay. Got it. This is just not tight enough, or however it's. Yeah. Thanks. Okay. Okay. So we're looking at chemotherapy, radiation therapy. These are quotes. All right. Here's Harvard Heart Letter. Can cause serious heart problems. Some chemotherapy agents are so toxic that severe reactions may occur, cardiovascular problems appear. In short, they're telling you that the number one killer in the world, you know, in the industrial world certainly, is from heart attacks, and number 2 is cancer. But if you take out those who are over 85 years old, because they die from heart attacks like crazy, all of a sudden you find out there are more cancer deaths than there are heart attack deaths. And then if you take and look at who died from chemotherapy, they had cancer and they got chemotherapy and they got heart attacks from the chemotherapy, you find out that the cancer rate that really killed them is much higher than has been told to you. Now at the bottom here, heart attack death rates have from 2001 and 12, cancer mortalities rose. That's, risk of suicide is 12 times greater after diagnosis and 55 times more likely of risk of death by heart attack. That's when you find out you have cancer. So you've got this stress on you. Oh, yeah, that's for a little fun. As we get so serious, don't we? Yeah, that's our good friend. Okay, rare cancer's on the increase. I'm going to do this at first before I get into the subject so that you understand there is a cancer epidemic going on. People, most everybody stands up, if that was a flu epidemic, I'd ask you, they'd be making you get shots, right? That reminds me that as I go through Europe and I keep running into people who had flu these last 8 years that I've been exiled from the U.S., I don't get the flu. I don't take the flu shot. I say, you've got the flu? Oh, yeah, I feel so sorry for you. Did you get the flu shot? Oh, yeah, I got the flu shot. How come I'm not getting your flu? You get too many shots, and you literally can clog up your whole system with all these antibodies that don't work anymore because they only work for that particular flu, and that has mutated. But there it is sitting in your system, and then when the real flu comes along, you've got your immune system says, I've got this antibody and that antibody, let's try this one, let's try that one. The flu gets worse and worse because it doesn't have the right antibodies. It's got plenty that look like they're going to work. Slows down the system so it can't produce the antibodies you need right away because it can't even figure out which You know, because they're only slight differences. But they'll give it to you for free. Yeah. Okay, cutaneous T-cell lymphoma has increased 3 times over the past 30 years in the U.S. That's just came out in July. And alliance of 80 charities and the public health thing from England, National Cancer Intelligence Network, deaths from rarer cancers are on the rise, both in terms of number and proportion. Well, wait a minute. Where did all these brain cancers come from? Pancreatic? We didn't used to have these. And for all of you people out there who love your alkaline diets because you think that cancer thrives in acid, I want to tell you something about cancer thriving in acid. Cancer thrives in acid or base. And you cannot change your blood pH. Your body will desperately try to handle the awful acid or the awful base that you put in your stomach to change your pH by like leaching out calcium from your bones. A lot of people are getting osteoporosis because they're imbibing bicarbonate of soda. Leave your body alone, eat right, and don't do these extreme things. You're not going to help give your system any kind of boost to stop you from getting cancer that way. In the test tube, I can put bicarbonate of soda in it all day long, or I can change the pH. That's not what it is. Cancer cells simply multiply more rapidly than others, and that's why they survive longer in a test tube, whether it's in acid or base. And the only reason that we have cancer cells that are surviving many stresses that normal cells don't, whoops, God is calling. I'm here to tell you that basically, please take the what they call, what in Swedish, the middle way. Nothing in excess and everything in moderation. And I have so much to tell you about what cancer really is. Let's look at some more. I'm going to sit down.
Can I say one thing?
He's here to talk, so come on.
I'm here to talk.
Yes.
Can I be heard? Yes.
No, you have to fix it.
I don't know. Am I? Yeah.
There you go.
Please listen to this beautiful lady. She was recruited indirectly by the CIA because of her knowledge. They have unlimited funds. They look for the best.
Yeah. Yeah, when I was 16 years old, I got created a new method to get magnesium out of seawater. And that took me to the International Science Fair, and there I was surrounded by CIA. Because magnesium at that time, they wanted to get good, pure types and all that cheaply for rockets. And that was just the beginning of associations with them. In 1960, at the same time, 2 of the doctors I was working with, and you saw the documents, for Dr. Rogenkamp and Dr. Shively. Both of those doctors were trained by the CIA the same year, that is, in how to handle cancers, the same year that they were training me to handle cancers. So right in the beginning, from childhood practically, for me anyway, even before that, I was contacted. He was supposed to be a Norwegian scientist. And you can look in the book, Me and Lee, about how he influenced me and got me in contact with Oak Ridge. And these, of course, doctors were with Oak Ridge. Anyway, me and Lee here, I want you to see this. It's a very important thing. The BK polyoma virus, the BKPYV, is a small double-stranded DNA virus that's emerging pathogen in immunocompromised individuals. BKPYV is widespread in the general population, but primarily causes disease when immune suppression leads to reactivation of latent virus. And there it is, the National Institute of Health. Now I'm going to show you what the BKPYV virus is. Are you ready? It's SV40. They've changed the name so people don't know what's getting to them. How many of you know what SV40 virus is? Raise your hand. Oh my God, they're so ignorant. Okay, it's not your fault. When they keep changing the names on these things so that you can't figure out what's going on. It's something else, okay? So we'll start right here. Oh, here we go again. I love that if they have a microphone that I can just hold on to.
Or I can sit
My
like
shell
this.
pink ears can't handle this.
I can hold your ear.
No, it's all right. Okay, that's a joke. Okay, The SV40 Foundation has caused plenty of trouble for the governments and the people that are dragging their heels on cancer and curing cancer. Alexander Horwin was born June 7, 1996. He got the oral polio vaccine November 97, not 1963 now, listen, 1997. He was diagnosed with brain cancer in August of 98. In January of 99, he is dead. Now, his parents weren't ordinary parents. His parents were not ordinary parents. His parents happened to be experts in every possible way. This is going to make a huge difference. Thank you. Let's undo me here. The technological miracles of the day are sometimes impediments. Yeah. Thank you so much. Thanks for your patience. Can you hear me? No, it's not on yet. Hello? It's on? Okay. Okay. I'm used to operations, so let's go on. Alexander died. His parents were not the usual. One was a technologist, and the other was running hospitals for a living. They had saved Alexander's cord blood. Now, you do this often if your child has an accident or trouble. They can analyze the cord and see if that pathogen was already in the cord, so whether it came from the mother or whatever. But when they checked his, because it had been kept in deep freeze, it was negative for SV40. And Alexander's parents' blood was negative for SV40. However, Alexander himself was tested by, I want to tell you, these are absolutely top-level institutes in the United States. Baylor College, University of Chicago, University of Texas, okay, and Temple University, all tested. Poor Alex's blood was tested positive for SV40, and the doctor said, gee, we don't know where it came from. The only difference was that Alexander got the polio vaccine. Okay? They started this foundation, so they changed the name of the SV40C to this blah, 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 PK blah, blah, right? So that the people who have the SV40 Foundation, their information looks like it's not connected to this problem. My friends, I was trained to handle the SV40 Monkey Virus in 1961 with Dr. James T. Grace at Roswell Park. It's a deadly thing. It doesn't look deadly because it can be a latent virus. Now, for example, how many of you have ever had chicken pox? Chicken pox? Maybe you don't know what chicken pox is. Okay, all right. Now raise your hand if you have had shingles. Anybody in here? All right, I promise you, these are the same virus. And often, you can trace it now, we know, because chickenpox virus, it finally moves into the ends of your fingers and other nerve endings. If it gets inflamed again, it can go into your eye, you can go blind, or you can get shingles. And those are painful, and they may stay with you the rest of your life. But you may have chickenpox when you're 10 and you won't get the shingles until you're 60. That doesn't mean the virus isn't there. SV40 virus is in your bloodstream. The chances are about 90% that you have the SV40 monkey virus in your bloodstream, and here's why. The monkey virus was found, it was number 40, SV40. There are 39 others, and there are many more above. Running around, having a great old time in monkeys' kidneys. Now, kidneys and your liver, those are the places where you sift out your impurities. So your viruses and so on tend to, accumulate there. They chop up monkey kidneys and make a paste, sort of like pate. And yes, you don't want to eat it. And on this nice, these beds of this paste, they would sprinkle some of the polio virus. Polio virus is such a simple virus. It's the first virus that's ever been created artificially. Now, why in God's name would we create an artificial polio virus? Do you have any idea why we would do such a thing when there's talking about eradicating polio? The polio virus is a very interesting one because it can carry other viruses like piggyback. You can take a polio virus and put another virus on top of it, and you can carry it right into the bloodstream and into the targeted area. Now, who would want to go and have a nice little neat polio virus drained or to carry like SV40 Monkey Virus? Because that's what happened. Now, the U.S. government and others told us that nothing happened, we got all this monkey virus out by 1963. But this happened then. Actually, we didn't get the monkey virus out until 1999. Yeah, but you know what? We didn't get it out because if you were a nursing mother, you passed it on to your baby. If you had a baby, you passed it on to your baby. Maybe a few of you men didn't get it, but if you die of cancer and you don't check for SV40 monkey virus, you'll never be able to help us eradicate this dread disease. You see what I'm saying? Because a lot of this is caused by the polyoma. But let's go ahead and move forward a little. 98 million Americans were given polio vaccine contaminated with cancer-causing virus. They admitted this, the CDC did last year. This is the Center for Disease Control in America. Trouble with this is that after they put that out and everybody got upset, they took it away. You can't find it on the internet anymore. This is what they were doing in 1960. Good protection, it says, get one shot. Better protection, get two. Okay, polio, get yours today. And get your monkey virus with it. Here's what happens. You've got the polio virus, I said the kidneys here, and they grow, the SV40 monkey virus is in it. The polio vaccine gets contaminated. Millions of people in the USA and in Europe and even in the USSR got infected with this free vaccine. Cancer rates have increased. SV40 is found in brain tumors, bone cancers, lung cancers, and leukemia, just to name a few. There it is. Isn't it pretty? Okay, it's a non-enveloped DNA tumor virus that enters cells by caveolar endocytosis. Let's make it a little simpler for you to understand. You've got the nucleus of a cell. There's a little hole in the nucleus through which certain materials can enter into the nucleus. That teeny tiny hole is so small that no viruses can get in because that's how the cell protects itself. However, this doesn't have an envelope around the DNA. See those little balls? Basically, they're like a ball of yarn. They can unwind and thread themselves right into the nucleus. So they're extremely aggressive, and you can't avoid them. It's very unusual, and the monkey virus, therefore, can propagate itself quite efficiently. Now, don't worry about this. This is too hard for everybody to read, but basically, we're talking about what the official version is here. SV40 is a virus found in some species of monkey. Well, that's fine, so we don't have to worry, right, about no, but the species of monkey we use were the African green monkey, okay, and rhesus, and they have it. Now I'm going to tell you something that may shock you, but today most of the vaccines that are being grown are either grown on human fetal cells or on chopped up monkey kidneys, even today. Even now, they're still doing it. Okay, so they want to kill those viruses, so they use formaldehyde, and they use all kinds of other things. But if you insisted on seeing what the contents were in small print, you'll see it says on each one of these vaccines, it says in small print, has not been tested for oncological properties, hasn't been tested to see if it can cause cancer. And they have passed laws in the United States, and they may do it here, you cannot sue any company that gives you a vaccine. Okay, because you took it willingly. In fact, you probably got it for free.
Hey.
Right, so you can't complain. Okay, SV40, this is the official version, was discovered in 1960, soon after the virus was found in polio vaccine. What they don't tell you is that the two women who found the virus in the polio vaccine had their careers destroyed, and everything was ruined for them, and they used the vaccine anyway, even though it was contaminated. Why? Because it costs an awful lot of money. Here's what they thought. If we destroy all this, because we made all these ads, to get your polio vaccine, people are not going to trust us anymore. And besides, we're going to find a cure for cancer before this latent virus can show up 10 or 20 years later. See, nobody's going to connect the polio vaccine with this virus because it doesn't show up. It's like shingles. It doesn't show up till later. Till you're stressed out, till your immune system goes down, till you get older. By then, we'll have a cure for cancer. So what the hell, excuse my language, give it to them. And they gave it to you. All right?
And one of the men that was really in charge of that was her future boss, Alton Ochsner.
We're going to get to Dr. Alton Ochsner.
And his grandchildren as well?
Yeah, we are. All right. So this is the official version. This SV40 has been found in certain types of cancer in humans, but it has not been determined that SV40 causes these cancers. Yeah, all right. Well, you saw what happened to that little boy. You tell me where he got his cancer from. The majority of scientific evidence suggests that SV40 contaminated vaccine did not cause cancer. However, some research results are conflicting, and more studies are needed. This is after 50 years, folks. They've been studying it for 50 years. Polio vaccines that are being used today do not contain SV40. All the current evidence indicates that polio vaccines have been free of SV40 since 1963. It's a lie, and this is the official version. Well, there were so many protests because of people who found SV40, and rich people can go ahead and check their vaccines. They took this down. You can't find it on the internet anymore. Here's a very nice-looking guy. Isn't he a handsome man? His name is Robert Heath. He was at Tulane. I was associated with Tulane. David Ferrie was associated with Tulane. Dr. Sherman was associated with Tulane, and Dr. Ochsner. You will hear these names again. But we were involved at the time in the production of a biological weapon to create cancer. That may sound horrible. I've been threatened with arrest for talking about it. That I knew enough. I want to tell you, if I had told anybody after I was kicked out of that program, if I told anybody that this was going on, they all would have denied it. They would say, this lady's crazy. There's no way you could tell people about these activities because they had Plan A, Plan B, and Plan C to deny. It's called plausible denial. You can't find, because one group wouldn't even know what another group was doing. We had a ring of labs. Okay. Dr. Heath was involved in MKUltra projects. That's mind control. And he, by the way, associated with my friend David Ferrie. I've written a book it's called David Ferrie, Mafia Pilot. For those of you who are really interested in how the CIA and others can block the truth, get the book. You can get it on Amazon. Okay. Now, Heath said this in 62. He's in deep trouble, by the way, by 62 and 63. We are working on a set on biological weapons. He is approached, in 1962 and asked about this because some things do get leaked. He said a doctor in 1962 for the agency, now that's the CIA, all right, approached him while he was doing experiments on pleasure centers in the brain and asked if he would be interested in exploring the pain center. Dr. Heath called the request abhorrent. Well, that's very nice, but he did some other things that were equally abhorrent, trust me. Here is Dr. Alton Ochsner. He was my particular mentor ever since we met in 1961, and he inspected, along with 2 Nobel Prize winners and Dr. Deal, who was the vice president of the American Cancer Society in charge of research. They took me under their wings. They sent me, I got top training, because I had given cancer to mice in 7 days. Just 7 days. And they had never done this before. I used were germ-free mice that I obtained from an associate I knew, who was Dr. Rennell, who was over in Tampa, and he had been with Notre Dame, and my family had connections with Notre Dame, which is South Bend, Indiana. I was born in South Bend, so I'm giving you a little background there. But when we got these germ-free mice, they had no immune system. They had no protection. You go in and give them, irradiate them, and it breaks down any incipient kind of response they could make to anything. and then inflict upon them cancer-causing carcinogens and watch what happens. And I perfected it finally. And I say in 7 days I could give weanling mice cancer, and the cancers were the size of peas already. And then they even got bigger in just a few days. They closed the lab down I had, and as they sent me to New York. Okay. But Ochsner had worked at Tulane. He'd been in charge there. He had his own clinic. It's very famous today, the Ochsner Foundation. They don't like me very much for talking about this. When I go to New Orleans and everything, we have that big clinic there, and they say their donations have really gone down. And people shouldn't punish the clinic today for what happened back then. All those people are dead. Anyway, Ochsner invited me to come to New Orleans, and I would skip 2 years of college, and I'd go right into medical school. All I had to do was be in a summer internship with Dr. Mary Sherman. There's the only female doctor on his entire staff, and she had her own bone cancer clinic and laboratory set up. She's famous. Of course I wanted to do that. I had a little problem. I had an association with a man I thought I was in love with. His name was Robert Allison Baker III, and he turned out he had Asperger's, but I thought he was solemn. I thought his silences were great depth. Actually, there was nothing there. So I was kind of fooled, but he had an IQ of 186, and he had adapted quite a bit to know how to. Anyway, he fooled me, and I was expecting to marry him because I wanted birth control pills. We couldn't get them without marriage. He never asked me to marry him. He said, "I'll come marry you," because I said, "I'm leaving, I'm going," Now I have a witness. I have witnesses all along. Dr. Kathy Santee is a doctor who's now living in Miami area, and she got her degree as a doctor at Emory University. I helped her fill out her papers, and at the time I was doing that, I said, "I'm going to miss you because I'm going to Tulane. They want me to go to school there. I'm going to enter medical school 2 years early." She's on record as telling, that I told her that. For all those that say, "Come on, where's your proof that you were invited, for that?" Why would I have left the University of Florida anyway and gone all the way to New Orleans, of all places, unless I had an incentive? I say that because the record shows that all I was is that I became a secretary at a coffee company. Wait, what am I doing at a coffee company? I've been working my head off into cancer research. These were cover jobs, and they were very good ones. Lee Oswald was there too. Lee Harvey Oswald and I put up, that we wanted to get a job, and this was all set up at the same agency, employment agency. It was A1 Employment. The same day we were interviewed, the same day we were hired to work at what was called Standard Coffee Company, which there we got all our records laundered. They don't want a cancer researcher. I was supposed to be a secretary for this vice president at Riley, and I couldn't hardly type. So they had to teach me a lot of typing, how to use a dictaphone and all that kind of thing, because I was there to make sure that when Lee Oswald had to go places, I would be there to check. He would be clocking in, and I would probably be clocking him out because he wouldn't be there. On the other hand, because he'd be gone so much, there would be complaints. Guess who the card goes to, the time card, if there is a complaint? It went to the vice president, who was in charge of security and finances. That was Bill Monahan, William I. Monahan. He was my boss at Riley. I was the secretary. He was former FBI agent, and suddenly this Riley company that always had only Riley family members as vice president has brought in a former FBI agent to be their vice president. All in the records, folks. All in the records. I have all the records for it. So there I am.
Go back to Ochsner.
Well, the reason I'm talking about Riley Company and all that is because Ochsner and Riley Company and several others, they're all involved in something called INCA, the Information Council of the Americas. They were there. They wanted to see Fidel Castro murdered. You need to understand that. Now, Ochsner was so enthralled with the polio vaccine, and he put a lot of stock into the Cutter laboratories. He brought all of his friends in. And he brought in the press, and he said, I'm going to show you how safe this is. And he inoculated his grandson and his granddaughter. And the consequences, 7 days after the little boy, the little toddler, was inoculated, he died of the polio vaccine. And his little granddaughter got polio. Now, if he'd waited one more day, out of California, they had deaths too. And he wouldn't have done it. But one day later, the deaths came rolling in from other places. It's called the Cutter Incident. It taught Dr. Ochsner an important lesson. He trusted his doctors. And he realized when we had the Bay of Pigs and all that, and Cuba was cut off from the world, many doctors who had been trained in New Orleans by Dr. Ochsner, he had what was called Brent House, and he brought in all these people from Central, South America, Cuba, Mexico, trained them to be doctors. He was into that. He got medals on his chest from all these South American countries, from Mexico, from Cuba. The Cuban doctors were cut off. Some of them were very angry because their boy, who was going to be a doctor, one of them couldn't become a plastic surgeon and wouldn't make $1 million over in Hollywood. See? You have things like that going on. Resentment. They don't dare say a thing. They're suddenly put on a salary. They can't make the piles of money they're making. Some of them knew Castro very well and had ways to reach Castro with, shall we say, altered medicinal supplies. All right? So Ochsner realized Castro trusted his doctors just like he trusted his doctors that told him the Cutter vaccine was safe, and it killed his grandson. He realized there were two things going on. He had already been working for several years by then on trying to, after the Cutter incident, on trying to find out if this stuff was contaminated. He found out it was contaminated with cancer-causing materials. And he and Dr. Sherman and a few others tried working secretly, because you don't want the American public to know this, worked secretly trying to find a cure for cancer, you see, that would take care of this. While doing so, they came across a mutation that made cancer grow so fast, he got interested. Ochsner realized, aha, what if Fidel Castro, now I'm not going to say any more, let's go see what happened. Let's see what happened. Dr. Mary Sherman, Doctors Bernice Eddy and Sarah Stewart tried to warn us. Their careers were destroyed. But you'll find out that one of them went on to go, of all places, to New Orleans. During the time we're working on our secret project, she was one of our special friends of Dr. Mary Sherman. We have David Ferrie, who is you'll see in the film JFK, you'll see mice running around in a cage in his room. He's dead. You know, Ferrie's been murdered. He was my friend. Nobody has written a book about him until I did. It's a 500-page book. 500 pages, I want to tell you facts, not fiction. Dr. Mary Sherman, murdered on the 21st of July, 1964, the day the Warren Commission came to New Orleans to get testimonies. Instead, the first person that got a testimony that went in there, his name was Dean Andrews. He was Carlos Marcello's attorney. Marcello was one of the prime suspects for the Kennedy assassination. And of course, you know, this sweet-talking Dean Andrews, he's a big fat fellow. Okay? He's played by John Candy in the movie JFK. And he said, oh, you know, we didn't do nothing. You know, it's not us. Okay, anyway. That's me back then. Well, that's when I was in high school. This is when I knew Lee. And the pictures you've seen of Lee are mainly, he's all beat up, he's exhausted, and they take the worst pictures they can, and then they even altered a lot of them. He was a normal-looking man, okay? And he was cute. He was. Okay. Here's the problem. Not only did Ochsner have a problem with Castro, because he couldn't train any of his people anymore, anything like that. But he had another problem, and that was, like David Ferrie and others, not only was that cut off, but communism was taking over the whole country, and Ochsner was so anti-communist. And David Ferrie hated JFK with a passion, because he thought was responsible for the Bay of Pigs. Now, I told some of you this a little last time. David Ferrie was asked to talk in front of 90 retired military officers, and he told them that Kennedy ought to be shot, and they made him get off the stage. Then they came to him privately and said, we believe you, we agree with you, and you're talented, we'd like to use your services. Somewhat later, Dave Ferrie found out the truth that it wasn't Kennedy's fault, it was CIA's fault. And they had lied to him, and they got him embroiled, and he had to take the heat for it. And it was Kennedy who stopped Havana from being bombed, and he's the one who fired the head of the CIA, Allen Dulles, who later will become a member of the Warren Commission that says the CIA had nothing to do with it. Okay, the Warren Commission is the ones who investigated the murder to find out who murdered Kennedy. And the only person they were allowed to look at was Lee Oswald. And of course, with Allen Dulles on the team, who was the former head of the CIA, they're not going to hear anything about the CIA being involved. Anyway, these Bay of Pigs prisoners, there were over 2,000 of them. Some of them were tortured to death. Now here's a man who just loved Kennedy. Oh, this man just, look how much he loves Jack Kennedy. These are different photos. This man wanted so much to be president, and one man, only one man, and one man's heartbeat stood in his way. Now, this nice man's name was Lyndon Baines Johnson. And Lyndon, I think it's very interesting about him, is that when he was named vice president, he took the vice presidency, and his quote was, "I hear that 1 out of 4 men that are president, they die in office." That's what he said when he was accepted the nomination, which he rigged in the background. Yes, that's what he said. And Lyndon Johnson had some problems because on November 22nd, the day that Kennedy was shot, there was a congressional hearing going on in Washington, D.C., and you know what they were talking about? That Lyndon Johnson should go to prison because they had witnesses there that were testifying, and he accepted bribes from the mafia, accepted bribes from congressmen, and that he had killed people. Lyndon Johnson had a terrible problem. Either he lets himself become vice president and say nothing, because he wasn't in charge of all this stuff. But he knew about it, because if he didn't go along with it, they would have got rid of him too. He had the choice of becoming vice president of the most powerful country in the world, or of going to prison. Now, which one do you think he worried about that a long time? As soon as he became president, he dissolved the inquiry into his misdoings, his misdeeds, so it never came to a vote. This is what we had waiting in the wings. Now this is you can see which one loses their temper and is full of passion and needs control, and why one of them had to go. Because of the way he acted, Kennedy, who had to put him in to get enough votes and being blackmailed because of his womanizing, Kennedy had to take him, but he was not going to put him on the ticket. He told Evelyn Lincoln, his secretary, just before he left for Texas, that this man is not going to be on the ticket, when we run again. He had already picked out somebody else. Now, the difference between these two men, I think this photo shows it all, okay? America inherited this, and with it, war, aggression, and evil. I'm sorry, but it's true. Here are the other cute figures that we can look at. This is Allen Dulles, head of the CIA, fired by Jack Kennedy. This is Edgar Hoover. He was called John Edgar Hoover, J. Edgar Hoover. He was homosexual. He was often called Mrs. Hoover, And they had the mafia had photographs of him, so he was under control. This interesting looking man, he has the most decent face probably of them all. This is Charles Cabell. Kennedy, when he fired him, he forced him to resign. Destroyed his career. Why? He was a second in command at the Bay of Pigs and had fooled Kennedy, and they'd even done some things behind his back against the will of the president that could have caused us to go into World War III. He fired him. Charles Cabell's career was destroyed. He was destroyed. He was disgraced. Charles Cabell's brother, name is Earl Cabell, the mayor of Dallas when Kennedy was shot. Power, able to make things happen in the right direction. Please get goosebumps. this nice-looking fellow is a schizophrenic maniac that they used in charge of assassinations. His name is James Jesus Angleton. Lee said, I don't know whether I'm agnostic and everything, but I do believe that Jesus doesn't like me. Okay? James Jesus Angleton was not happy that Lee came back alive. He said, I would have preferred that Oswald had returned in a coffin. Because if he returned alive, it means maybe the Soviets let him go because he made a deal with them. Lee was aware of this, and he tried very hard to obey and every little dictate to prove that he was on our side. But it's a little hard when you have a woman born in the Soviet Union, okay, as your wife. He wasn't going to leave her behind because he loved his baby so much. And she wanted to go to the United States, and she knew if she got a baby, he would not leave her behind. I'm not saying that he didn't want the child, he did, but he didn't. I don't think he wanted it as soon as he got it. Now, there was a problem near the end, because after Lee is arrested, and they have Marina, and they want to get all this information from her. Marina, just a few years ago, that's Lee Oswald's wife, former wife, she said that, yes, they had intimidated her and said they would deport her. That would be her and her toddler daughter, June. But little Rachel, who had been born in the United States, would be left behind with a grandmother. Now, do you think that she's going to go and defend a dead man, or is she going to go and cooperate? She said she felt she had to cooperate. So anything you read in the Warren Commission testimonies, understand that this is a woman under pressure. She never should have been interrogated like she was. She was kept away from others for weeks, isolated. This is a nursing mother. Imagine what she went through, trying to nurse a baby under those situations. This interesting man here, this is General Walker. Bobby Kennedy didn't like him very much. He didn't like Bobby. Let's put it this way. Bobby had him, when Walker showed up at school, university segregation problem where you had the first black was going to go into college there in Alabama. Guess who stood there with him? He said, I will stand in the schoolhouse door here. I will not let anyone come in. I'm not positive of because that's not my expertise, what event was, but I do know it caused a riot. That gave Bobby Kennedy, he had already been fired by the Kennedys for handing out literature. It was like John Birch literature and everything to the troops. And now they picked him up and they put him in a mental hospital. He didn't stay there very long because he wasn't crazy, he just hated the Kennedys. But anyway, this guy, where does he live? He lives in Dallas, Texas. Gosh. Anybody know who this nice-looking fellow is? I know you do. Go ahead and tell him.
Carlos.
Yeah, that's Carlos Marcello, or some call him Marcello because they didn't know that he pronounced it Marcello.
His car you were driving around in.
Oh, yes, I got to ride around in Carlos Marcello's car, and you can read about it in my book. And I was supposed to act like a bimbo at that time and real stupid, so I said, oh, I get to put my little fanny down on Carlos Marcello's upholstery in his car. And Lee said, you silly, because actually there were 6 people all together in the car. I had to sit in his lap, and he didn't mind that, Anyway, that sounds a little strange, but the point is that Lee Oswald wasn't just CIA and FBI. The CIA was working with the Mafia to try to kill Castro. Lee Oswald was perfect because not only was he trained by the Office of Naval Intelligence and was working for the CIA for whatever they wanted him to do, but he was also, his Uncle Dutz, that is Charles Muret, worked for Carlos Marcello so close, they probably said each other's names in their sleep, okay? So, they're very close. That's the way Dave Ferrie would say it. And also David Ferrie said that there were 2 other people who said each other's names in their sleep. It was kind of interesting. But all these people are related. And they all work together. So when you see a headline, it says the CIA and the FBI and the Federal Reserve and the Texas oil men and the military-industrial complex and the generals killed Kennedy as a joke, it's not a joke. When you have a big circle and you have the CIA they're involved here, and the FBI over here, and the Federal Reserve over here, and you have over here some oil men. If any of them point a finger at anybody else and say, ha ha, but you were involved too. So don't think this thing couldn't get big. Okay, and it's big today. Don't think that it doesn't count today. The same people, the same rings, brought in their babies and nurtured them, and they're with you now, and they're leaching your blood. And if you like, the bloodsuckers, hang on to them.
I changed the meaning, or I put a meaning to the word CIA and FBI. In my opinion, if you go and look for the truth, the CIA stands for the Cocaine Import Agency, and the FBI stands for fraud, bribery, and intimidation.
Yeah, I'll go for it. And understand, there are many CIA agents and many FBI agents who are good people.
Good guys.
I'll tell you about one of them. His name is Abraham Bolden, and he was Secret Service agent, the first black Secret Service agent. Kennedy brought him in. That's how open-minded Kennedy was, even though it might get him in trouble. He was on the Kennedy detail and actually protected Kennedy for some period of time. In Chicago, he was there as a witness when 3 weeks before the Kennedy assassination, Kennedy was going to go to Chicago. And the FBI called, and it was a speakerphone so everybody could hear it, The agents in the office, stand down, Kennedy's not coming. Well, why? Because our informant, his name is Lee, told us such and such, and we arrested these armed men, and now we're trying to round up anybody else. So Kennedy called off his trip to Chicago. Lee Harvey Oswald saved his life. Please, when I was saying that in 1999, that Lee told me he believed he had saved Kennedy's life. Nobody believed me, but then we have Abraham Bolden has come out, and he's not alone. There are others that support him in this. Lee Oswald tried to save Kennedy's life, and that got him all hyped up to try again, all right? All right. Here's Albert Thomas winking at LBJ. He's winking. Yeah, if you blow it up, you can see it. And he's smiling, and she can hardly keep a grin off her face. Here is shell-shocked Jackie Kennedy, wearing a suit that's bloody. She said, "I'm sorry I took the blood off my hands and face." Said, "I want them to see what they did." A lot of people said, why haven't the Kennedy people, gone in there and tried to get action? Well, Bobby Kennedy tried. He said a week before he was murdered, when I become president, I'm going to look into this. When he won over in California, they didn't let him even walk a few steps out of that same hotel where he won. They got him. Anyway, Albert Thomas, who is he? Albert Thomas was a congressman over in Houston, Texas, and they said, oh, he's so sick. This is in March of '63. And Ochsner and others were friends with him, all right? He was friends, Ochsner and others were friends with these Dallas people and the Houston people, the people running Texas. And what's interesting is Albert Thomas was oh so sick in March, so that Kennedy agreed to go to Texas in the fall. And when he got there, before he got there, they added Dallas and San Antonio. So we see Albert Thomas is winking at Lyndon Johnson. You did it, honey. We did it. We got him here, and we killed him.
This photo is taken on board of Air Force One.
Yes.
Where he's sworn in as president, which he already was. There was no need to swear him in. The only reason was to get Jackie Kennedy away from the coffin so that they could kidnap the body. This is what is happening now.
Yes, we have a coffin in the back. My good friend Dennis David, who lives in my hometown, South Bend, Indiana, happened to be there when the coffin was brought in. Opened the body bag. There was Kennedy. They put him in the autopsy room. We do not know what to him. Meanwhile, Jackie Kennedy is following an empty coffin. Mm-hmm. And others, we have witnesses for both sets of coffins arriving. So what all you people saw being loaded, Kennedy arrived in a pine box. We even have on film, on the internet, on the YouTube, the pine box. They've got pictures of the pine box that Kennedy was carried in, and yet they say that's not true. He was never transferred. Nothing happened to his throat. There's a big gash in his throat. My friends, if you've been in operating rooms like I have been, And you've seen, because when I was at Roswell Park, they would take whole jaws away from these people, and they were smoking. And these people with nothing, a hole here in their little, to breathe through, they put a cigarette in there and breathe through the hole in their throat to keep smoking. I haven't smoked in my life. When you see that kind of thing, to heal this, they cut off this part of the neck, and underneath they take this whole strip of flesh and pull it up like it's called a pedicle flat, and sew it all over the face here to try and at least close up that big wound. Why am I talking about that? Because we see it's supposed to be a tracheotomy. Tracheotomy is, hold up your little finger. I want you to look at your fingernail. You don't need a cut any wider than your fingernail to get the plastic tube in. But we have a gaping hole in Kennedy's throat. What happened is we had an entrance wound from a bullet, and they're trying to say the bullet came from the back and came out through the throat, and that would make a big hole. So they smash this all up. It doesn't take but about 15 seconds to really mess this up, and that's what you have. So they did some alteration. We also did some other things to his brain, in the x-rays. But all we have to do, my friends, is have the brain. If we have Kennedy's brain, we can see what direction the bullet came from. But somehow they lost the brain. It's gone.
Unfortunately.
It's so unfortunate, yes. The brain of Kennedy, the most important and supposedly most powerful man in the world, murdered that day. We can't find his brain. And if the American people would find theirs, maybe we'd solve the problem, right?
If you listen when they're on their way in Air Force One, when they land, Lyndon Johnson is standing outside saying, "This is a tragic time for the American people," and all of these things. Listen in the background, there's a helicopter.
It's taking the coffin.
It's taking the body of Kennedy like that, and then at the same time they're carrying the casket out on the other side, the empty one. So there's an ambulance with an empty casket going like this, and helicopter going straight, trying to fix the damages. So there was like 2 autopsies at least. It's like a massive mess.
And to read all that, Dennis David, my friend, he is, by the way, he had to sign, as they all did, had to sign a gag order, never to talk about this. After enough people died, he was able to speak out. Now, this is called the Altgen 6 photo, and it's kind of important because this man right here is not supposed to be Lee Oswald, but what the heck, he's here wearing the same shirt I recognize. I won't go any further because I don't want to get in arguments with people. But what I can tell you is that the first shot has just happened. There are several things going on in this picture that you need to know. First of all, if the shot came from up here, the 6th floor, like they say, why is everybody looking that direction? Look at these Secret Service. Are they looking up where the shot came from? No, they're looking behind. We believe the first that shot that missed came and hit here at the wrong angle, and that ricocheted off, and that's why they had a problem, because if the first shot missed, it means they had to create the magic bullet. Here's something else I want you to see. Dark car, dark car. Why are they protecting the Secret Service agents instead of Kennedy? They were told to hang back. Hargis here, Billy Hargis, right here. He said, I was ordered not to be near the car. Sometimes they were. You can see it on film. They're not. They are protecting the Secret Service agents. Isn't that nice of them? Kennedy's in this car. He has nobody. And here's the other part of it. See, this car is dark. It's midnight blue. This is a black car. You have other cars that were in this parade. By the way, there's no car in front of Kennedy. Guess who was in the car in front of Kennedy? The mayor. Remember that Earl Cabell I told you about? Bam! That car just took off and was way ahead. He didn't want to get shot at. You will find there's no car. Look at all the space, and if you see other pictures, you'll see the other car is way ahead, out of range. But there's more. There's always more. See this car here and that one? Don't worry about the car door open. That's foolish. Anytime the parade slowed down, they would open the car door because they might jump out to, what? Help protect the vice president. Do you see any door opening here? No. Okay. But they're going to protect the vice president, so they start to open the door. This is the car of the vice president. You've got these black cars. There'll be more black cars back here. But these two, I call them the don't shoot at me cars.
Should I do the imitation?
Lyndon Johnson and his Secret Service agents are in different colored cars. Wonder why? Gee.
But can you go back, please?
Oh.
Because Lyndon, no, not back to that.
Yeah.
Lyndon Johnson, like we were talking about yesterday, was a
Yes.
very tall guy. And his wife, you can see his wife. But
Oh, yeah.
Lyndon is like this.
You can't see Lyndon Johnson. These are, in this car, you can only see.
And it was before the shots were fired.
All you can see is Lady Bird. You cannot see big, tall Johnson.
And at that point, he's got his bodyguard on top of him.
Youngblood. Youngblood jumps on him. The actual original statement he made is that after the shot was fired, or after the second or third shot was fired, in other words, a few seconds before he jumped on him.
Well, where is he?
But nobody jumps on Kennedy to save him. They jump on the vice president. Oh, you need to see that we tried many times, the U.S. did, to kill Castro. This is Marina Lorenz. This was certainly attractive to Mr. Castro. And
He
she
looks kind of attracted as well, the guy in the middle.
Yeah, well, he can't believe that he's trusting her. Marita becomes his mistress. And by the way, this is a rare picture. And there's more to it than that. By the way, I get these rare pictures, put them on the internet, and then they're not rare anymore. I've been doing this for years, and we've got a lot of stuff out there for you. Well, it's... So copy them and disseminate them. But what is she doing? She was given a, remember, when they're saying, oh, who would do a biological weapon against Castro? The suggestions were to use an exploding seashell. They actually had a suit that was laced with botulism for him to wear a wetsuit because he liked to dive. The problem is, who's going to give him the wetsuit, right? Problem. And Marita, they gave her poison pills to give him. She hit him in her cold cream, and they dissolved in the cold cream. So she couldn't use them.
Exploding his cigars.
Yeah, and also exploding cigars, and putting also thallium, radioactive material, in his shoe so his beard would fall out. And on it goes. So anyone that says we're not going to try and use a biological method to try and kill Castro, they need to look at the list that the CIA says they tried to use. And of course, the killer is, they said, well, and I've heard this over and over, why would they use you guys in your secret project to do try and kill Castro when the CIA was doing it? Well, the CIA wasn't doing it. They were failing. And Ochsner thought he had the perfect plan. He had doctors who would cooperate, get a little vial of penicillin, because Castro once a year got his checkup. And then all the time he was taking different vaccines because he was out there, had been out there in the jungles and everything, and he had parasites, and they were cleaning him up. And it's very odd because Castro had these doctors who loved him, but there were actually some technicians. If you bring a Castro in to get his annual chest x-ray to see how he's doing, and the technician, that's not one of Castro's best friends, has secretly turned it up so that he gets a super duper dose of radiation that makes him feel so sick, and then you inject something in him that takes off. It looks like it was just a little bit of penicillin. Clear as crystal. Well, I'm going to tell you, if you take cancer cells, and I'd take a pipette. Here's I use trypsin, which is an enzyme that loosens the cancer cells, because the cancer cells grow on the sides of the test tube. They're sticky. You can feel it like slime. You don't want to stick your hand in there, slime, and go like that and put it in your mouth. But we had to get it out. How are you going to get it out? Well, what we did, we put this enzyme, and after a while, they'd all fall into the liquid that was nourishing them. And remember, as I said, I don't care if it's acid or base, but if you add a little bit of sugar, it grows like crazy. So watch out for the sugar, okay? Now, so we take this long glass pipette, and it had cotton at the top, and you suck this up into the pipette and then stick it in a brand new test tube so that you can do other things with it. If you're a technician and you've got this cancer cells like that, you don't have to stick it in another test tube. You could stick it into something that says penicillin, and you can't tell the difference because it's clear as crystal. That is after you put it in here. They put pink, it's called phenolphthalein, and they use other types of things. Phenolphthalein, when it gets more acid, starts turning yellow instead of pink. So then you know it's time to fix this and change the bodily fluids, right? Well, in this case, if you just put it into a clear liquid and you don't add that pH indicator, it looks just like it looks like you could drink it like water. You'd never know you got cancer.
And also one really sinister part I thought was that with this virus, it was getting amplified by radiology, which was the cure. Yeah.
Oh, but these are the friends of Kennedy. No, they're not.
Ooh.
These are the men who hated his guts because he wouldn't let them have glory by bombing Havana and taking over Cuba. Some of them are on record as being angry and wishing that he were dead. But they said, oh, we didn't really mean it. We didn't know what was going to happen. And, of course, here we are, why we wanted Castro dead. Plot to kill Castro. He's aware of these things. He's not going to think it's in his penicillin. Okay, now, here we have the Cuban Missile Crisis. Castro becomes friends with Khrushchev. Castro is smoking in almost every picture he's got. Ochsner says, well, look at that. You can get lung cancer from smoking. All we need to do is get that man lung cancer and kill him. Nobody will be to blame. There'll be no World War III. Nobody will get caught because of the way we had it set up. People have said, what a horrible person I am because I went along with this plot to kill Castro. But this was 6 months after the Cuban Missile Crisis, and I lived in Florida. I saw all these tanks rolling down. Castro was aiming his nuclear weapons at me and my family and everybody I knew, and of course my whole country. So before you judge me, think of what you might do if you had an opportunity to see one person die instead of millions. And that's the way I was brought into the project, you see. Oh, this is 1963. This is in New Orleans. And here we have the polio vaccine is being given out to everybody and explained to me, by the way, it's going to give them all cancer. But not now. We'll cure cancer before that happens.
Wasn't this where the song came? They used that in the campaign with a little bit of sugar.
Yeah. They have so many. And there are some kids I found out that got in line again to get another dose of sugar cube and another. Because they weren't keeping track of it. They were just lining them all up. Some of those kids got triple doses of the vaccine. All right, here's what a normal lung looks. Whoopsie daisy. This is what a normal lung looks like. Oops, that's not the one. Let's go back. Okay. Here's a lung, a normal lung. Okay. And here is what happens if it gets cancer of the lung. You guys want to keep smoking? There it is. When Ochsner was a young man, they called him in the middle of the night. It was 1913 or so. Very young man he was. He said, you got to come see this. What you wanted me to see? We found some lung cancer. You may never see this again in your life. Come see it. It's everywhere now. Why? SV40 Monkey Virus is exploding in the population, and what it is best known for, what we were doing is trying to create lung cancer. Okay, and we did. All right. This is what mice look like under the tender. Now, this happens to be for GMO, okay? These are what mice look like when they've been fed GMO, wheat, and all that, and given any dose whatsoever of something like Roundup. That's what you get. All you people, I've noticed that Sweden uses Roundup. I saw that Denmark has just let Monsanto in when other places are banning. I mean, even California is banning Monsanto. I just got my throat cut, I think, by Monsanto, but anyway, you need to know. Woman expert in cancer, slain in burned Louisiana apartment. This is the mouse house where we had all these mice. They would come over with cancers so big, they were big as the bodies of those mice. In others, cancers twice the size of this. As we cut out the biggest and strongest cancers and put them through again and make them stronger by blasting them with radiation, taking the cancers that were biggest each time. This had been going on for a whole year before I got in the project. The project started on March 23rd, 1962. Jack Ruby knew about this. Why? He came from, you have to get money for all this stuff, and it was coming in from the Mafia, it was coming in from everywhere. And in my book, you'll read how he got involved. He was a bag man for Carlos Marcello in Dallas, and a police fixer. So he's the one that fixes things. You'll find later that this project we worked on, the cancer was sent to MD Anderson Hospital, and that was in Houston. Now, Jack Ruby, after he is in prison for a little while, they said they're going to give him a new trial. Even though we saw him shoot Lee Oswald right in front of the whole world, we're going to try him again because there's prejudice. Yeah. So, but, you know, a lot of people didn't want that because maybe they just might bring up things they shouldn't. Jack Ruby had to die. He passed a note to Al Maddox. By the way, I spent time with Al Maddox, personal time, and he wrote, after he talked to me and everything, I have it. It's in my book and other places. Shows Al Maddox has written, it says to Judyth, he says, with respect. Because he knew what I knew was true and what I told him. And he showed me, Jack Ruby slipped him a note and said, they have injected me with cancer cells. Jack Ruby was dead 29 days after he was diagnosed with cancer, in a Parkland hospital. Oh, he was sent there just a couple days before he was supposed to go and leave Dallas to go to a new venue in a different city. How convenient that all of a sudden he says he got injected with cancer cells. How interesting that we found out was Jolyon West of the MKUltra system that I showed you about with nice Dr. Heath and all those people. He's the one that came and injected Ruby for having a cold. He came from Chicago. How interesting. How fortuitous. Jack Ruby was dead. They checked, he had died of lung cancer. We have the records that show that the kind of lung cancer he had, it's very interesting because the cells had cilia. Those are little legs to kind of pump things along. But lung cancer, the typical lung cancer, doesn't have those kind of cells. In other words, the cancer came from somewhere else. What were those cells? They were pancreatic. Now, you know that pancreatic cancer has really gone just haywire. By the way, SV40 Monkey Virus creates pancreatic cancer. There was one problem, though. Remember, he said he was injected, and one doctor noticed in his autopsy, and they looked at the slides, they looked closer. These cells had come from his pancreas. But when they checked his pancreas, there was no cancer in his pancreas. You understand? He really had been injected with cancer cells. How did he know? Because when he came to visit us, David Ferrie showing off. They were friends. They had been friends for a while. He said, look, when we're going to inject Castro with this stuff, we have one problem. We've got to inject it into a vein. Because after they make him sick, see, they're going to give him penicillin shots and all that. You're supposed to be injected in muscle mass. You've got to find someone who's going to be able to inject into his vein something. So they would have used penicillin directly into the bloodstream if they said he had a terrible infection, see. It could be an intravenous drip full of cancer cells. You couldn't see it. At any rate, Jack Ruby realized that he was being injected with cancer cells because they must have injected him in one of his veins. And why would he know that that might be cancer? Because you can't use a regular needle. The needle had to be one that causes pain. Why? A regular needle, cancer cells will sticky it up. They'll clog it up. You can't see it, but it'll be like jelly, it'll clog it right up. So instead, you have to use a needle that's going to hurt. It's going to be a bigger bore needle, see? So he knew, we had explained that. We have to make sure Castro will endure a painful jab, see, into a vein. And they had their ways to convince because you believe your doctors, right? You trust your doctors. Okay. All right. Now here's what we have as far as cancers today. Now remember, most of these cancers today, if they're being given as biological weapon, the easiest way to do it is to put it in somebody's food. Just put it in their Jell-O. See what I'm saying? And I say that because these are all left-wing people we had, this 2 years ago. He's got colon cancer, that's internal. You've got Argentine President Nestor Kirchner, colon cancer. You've got Brazil's president here, she's got lymphoma. Here you've got Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, throat cancer. And here you have another lymphoma. Those are easy cancers to give. And here you've got Fidel Castro, stomach cancer. And here you have Evo Morales, nasal cancer. These are all, oral or olfactory means. Put it in your perfume. Because we were doing this 50 years ago, what do you think they can do now? See what I mean? You can encapsulate that and put it in almost anything. Just put a dissolvable something around these living viruses, inject it. It could be in your food, it could be in anything. I mean, we have technology. And of course, we can't prove it either, can we? Okay, here's something about injectable cancer. Maybe we can prove it. Because John Tower, from Texas no less, and Frank Church, they got together and had inspected about Kennedy assassination, and they trotted this thing out. Isn't this interesting? This gun was declassified, not in 1990 or something, but 12 years after the Kennedy assassination. They show you what probably shot Kennedy in the throat, okay, from the front. Who knows? But anyway, what we do know is that this was used to inject cancer and or, poison from blowfish, these deadly fish that a teeny bit of poison will kill you, by freezing it into a hard bullet type shape. It could penetrate clothes and make just a little red spot, never be noticed, and they die within moments, within a minute, they die. So this is the kind of thing they could do. I'm talking about if it's the poison. If it's the cancer, of course, it would take a little longer. And oh no, okay. In 1931, we have Cornelius Rhodes injected people in Puerto Rico with cancer. 13 of them died. So don't tell anybody, if you hear anybody say, oh, you can't be injected with cancer. How come we can inject millions of mice and so on? They get cancer, but we can't? Yeah, right. Okay, we have to go faster. This is the ugly little nasty antisocial boy that was in charge of all that, right? Highest cancer rates in the world starts with Denmark. Next, Ireland, Australia. What they all have in common, or anything else, is the ingestion of pork and heavy metals in the areas where they live. In other words, you have too much exposure to radiations of different kinds, but you're eating pork. And number one problem, the number one problem that I see is because most of you are eating mackerel. Raise your hand if you eat mackerel. Mackerel. It's a fish, and it's right. Let's look at mackerel. Unfortunately, picks up mercury faster than many other kinds of fish because of where it goes. And mercury lowers your immune system and makes you susceptible to cancer. It's the only thing I see that's different from everybody else, except for the fact of ingestion of pork, lots of pork, because the countries with the lowest amount, and they eat beef and chicken and everything else, but they don't eat pork, are all those Muslim countries. They're eating some of them are eating plenty of meat, but not pork. Pork carries all kinds of viruses. Now, let's go on here. Here's some more. These are figures adjusted, and what's interesting about this is the ratio for men and women, what the figures are here, and how they are collected. And the United States is no good either. I mean, all these are bad. We were talking about 175 countries or so, and the top countries, as you can see, they have problems, don't they? All right, let's go on here. Okay, now here's something else interesting, though. There is a problem here with the men and women ratio. In Republic of Korea, look at this number here, 17.5 and 8.6. You know what those are? Those are women compared to men getting breast cancer. Women get breast cancer, and so their figure is higher than men. See that? Because the woman can damage her breasts. and cause them to be irritated. But there's something else going on. How come in Denmark is the lowest, even though they've got the highest cancer rate, but they have the lowest ratio here? Well, I'm going to tell you, it has to have something to do with breast binding. Wherever anybody's wearing really tight bras, up it goes. Okay? Yeah, really. There's not circulation, and not wearing tightly fitting clothes is really important. And women are liberated, more or less, in Sweden and in Denmark. You see what I mean? Compared to where they're, and in Japan it's really bad too. In all these places they bind the breast flat down, and there's a lot of irritation. There's no decent circulation going on. Okay, this is how we do pigs over in Sweden. And we don't have the same kind of problem with the cancer. Sweden is way down the list in 24 compared to Denmark, number 1. And that's why I say I wonder if there's something to do with this. This is what you're doing. Now, let's go back. This is the way it's done, and it only costs a few crowns more per kilo to let them have a normal life, okay? And this is the way they do it. And I visited these farms. I mean, this is a picture I took, okay? But again, this is what we have in Denmark. Now, you want to ask me why you're number 1 cancer? Look at these stressed out animals. They can't even turn around. And then they throw all these baby pigs in there to suckle on them, the babies. It's so cruel. I can't eat. I ate pork yesterday before I realized what I was doing. That I wasn't in Sweden. Okay. Highest mercury of all is found in the mackerel, as I'm saying. You should avoid it like the plague. And the others are the orange roughy and the marlin, the shark, swordfish, and tuna. Stay away from the tuna. All right. Now, what do we have over here? Just in case you'd like to see what pork looks like when it has cancer. I'm telling you this because when they find cancer in these carcasses, they often will cut off this part and sell it. This part they'll chop up. You know what they do with it? They make it into pet food. They feed these contaminated carcasses. We have the most incredible cancer rate now among dogs and cats that we've ever had in history. You kill your animals, you want to kill your cat and dog, and even your horses, give them stuff that has this in it. This protein, they're getting they call it crude protein, including like chicken feathers. There it is, blown up so you can see it a little better, just in case you didn't get it the first time. And the bacon, if you could see the bacon, when I see Danish bacon or any bacon, I can see not just cysts where there have been parasites, but there aren't very many of those. You guys have really cleaned them up. What I do see are cysts of cancer surrounded by fat. So when you see a different color, it'll be grayish or it'll be darker. You'll have a layer of fat around it. You'll be able to recognize, I hope, these tumors. And I wouldn't eat bacon most of the time unless I saw it made by a farmer myself out of a pure carcass. Here is a poor cow with cancer of the eye, and many of these, they raise them anyway to adulthood, even though they have cancer, because they can sell them to the pet food industry. And some of them we think get made up into chili and hot dogs anyway, all right? That's just to make you feel better. This is what we're fighting for. Aren't we fighting for life and for happiness and for joy and all that? Don't kill your little puppy go on the internet. You can find out how to make good food for your animals like they used to have before they made these concentrated dog food that you just throw in there. He's your best friend, and you throw him this hard kibbles filled with viruses. If you think that cooking in the oven kills these viruses, no, it doesn't. It doesn't. Okay. So epidemic of cats and dogs. We have the Golden Retriever Club now that has they're now giving Golden Retrievers drugs to take for all their life so they won't get cancer. Wait a minute, how come we can have something for dogs not get cancer and we don't have it for people? What's going on here? Here's why we don't have a cure for cancer. We don't have a cure for cancer for this reason. Look at the money that's being spent on these. And one of them said, open now in advertising. It was like, okay. And this is why we don't have cures for cancer. These machines and all that, these are technology and money. These people are getting chemotherapy. machines used to deliver targeted radiation, machines to make, and all these big drug companies making billions of dollars a year on drugs to cure cancer that don't work. Remember Tree Frog? And he tried to cure himself. I've got a little bit to read to you, and it's a little boring, but I need to do it. I need maybe a couple more minutes. This is what surgeons and specialists have to deal with. If you think that, if you heard somebody has cancer of the throat or the mouth or whatever, and they've had their operation, they come out and you see some scars, this is what it looks like when they're working on it. Okay? And it will come back. They don't get cured. I've seen so many people suffer and die. They should have been cured. We had cure for cancers. Let me show you why. All right, here it is. Is this the era that we're going to cure cancer? This, you know what this is? This is I think it's 1964. 1964. And they're talking about that we've discovered viruses. We have antivirus serums. We think we can cure cancer. It's going to happen soon. Okay, and who is quoting this? Dr. Deal, my Dr. Deal. The one who's helping training me of the American Cancer Society. There's his personal card that he gave me, okay? Right here. And there he is saying, you know, we are not getting all of the scientists that we need. We're only skimming the very top of high ability science students for the life sciences. And they got me, okay? They got me. But they were looking for more, so you can see they were looking for young people. Now here is my former husband, Robert Baker. This is Robert Baker a few months later after getting radiation. Robert Baker had prostate cancer, and I said, I tried to talk to them. I said, please get your prostate out. Oh no, prostate is a slow-growing cancer. Let's go and give the radiation. Let's go ahead and put seeds in there. Let's go ahead and do this and that. Destroyed his immune system. It mutated, it moved, it metastasized. It went into his bones. He died an agonizing death. Mr. and Mr. and Mr. Your prostate that you're sitting on, make sure you're sitting on something soft so it doesn't get irritated. Number 2, if you have a prostate that is, they say is in stage 1 of cancer or something, we will give it treatment. Get it out. Don't fool around with their, they do have only 3 ways to handle this. They poison it, and the cancer fights back and gets resistant, so the poison doesn't work. Then they use radiation, and it runs your immune system down just terribly. And then if they can find enough, they cut it out. And when they're done with that, they just try it all over again, poisoning you. And they don't tell you how many people are dying. Where is the cure, people? Why are we having this huge industry? I'll tell you why. It is so profitable. Now, here's the CDHI1 gene. It's what makes cancers. This is a gene that if it breaks, this stops you from getting cancer, this gene. But if you have it broken, then you can get cancer. And it's about 10, maybe 5 to 10% of all cancers are caused that way. But that's something that could be engineered out if we use the right, if we had a way to go in there and repair that gene, you know, at the at the embryonic stage, you don't have to kill the embryo. But you know, at the fertilized egg stage, if you could put something in there that could fix that broken gene, they wouldn't get cancer from that. They get it from the air and from the mackerel and other things, and from the SV40. But here's the key, unless you want this. Rather than go through all these things, we don't have time, so I'll give you a little break again. Isn't it cute? MSM, these are some ways that you take out your pens, if you have any of your pencils, and write these down. Okay? I can't give you medical advice. All I can say is go to your doctor who will kill you, and you know, read and all that. Don't believe what I'm showing you, okay? Oh, don't do that. because I'm not giving you medical advice. I'm just talking my mouth off here, right? Okay. You understand that? So because I don't want to get arrested. All right. Methyl, sulfonyl methane. No, methylsulfonyl methane. Methane. Now, what is this? MSM. All you have to know is that this works to substantially decreases the viability of human breast cancer cells in a dose-dependent manner. That is, if you keep taking it. All right. If you have breast cancer, I would do it. All right. Please, MSM. I take it all the time. I've been exposed to so much radiation, you wouldn't believe. Okay. How about intravenous vitamin C? Remember, Tree Frog was taking it, and he said, "Oh, I feel great," so he quit taking it, and it came back, and he died. I just recently talked to somebody in the audience here, and they took it, and it cured their cancer, and then they quit taking it. They quit getting their intravenous, and now he has cancer of another kind that's popped up on his body. So, but if a doctor says, "Oh, I'll give you this intravenous," and he gives you 10 grams, no, we're talking about 400 grams or even 1,000 grams that you have to get into your body with one of these treatments. Here's something else. Make mincemeat of cancer cells with turmeric and resveratrol. Make that trans resveratrol, please, because it's only 50% of the resveratrol that really works. It does. These are the things, these are the kinds of cancer here that trans resveratrol, and how do you pronounce that in Swedish? All right. Eat it with your main meals because it's an irritant. Irritating you can also give you cancer. A lot of these people are taking lots of spices to make their immune system strong, and they're irritating their inside so much that they can get cancer from it. Eat it with your meals and don't overdo it, but do it, okay? So anyway, that's what I would do. Talk to your doctor. Right, talk to your doctor. Lung carcinoma, you've got myeloid and promyelocytic leukemia, multiple myeloma, and you've pancreatic cancer, oral epidermoid carcinoma, prostate cancer. All of these are slowed down by these two, and I take them. I need them. This is according to a 2009 study. Here we have nicotinamide. It's a form of niacin. Niacin also works. The trouble is, if you take this all the time, it won't work. You've got to take it once, a big dose, and then don't do it again for a week or so, because you can get too sensitive to it, and you can get hives and things, because of getting overdosed. But I want you to see this. This is a melanoma I had on my own arm over here. Yes, a few days ago I took a picture of it, and this is what it looks like today. This melanoma here, and that's what it looks like now. So how did I do that? I used niacinamide, and I used a skin bleach, hydroquinone. Okay, Sarah's battle against melanoma. For any of you interested, I cannot put this legally on for you to see, but if you come to me personally or get in touch with me, Sarah battled malignant melanoma and would be dead today. And there are others who have had they would have had their whole sides of their faces cut off, and they cured themselves using black salve. And I am not supposed to talk about black salve because it is, just like so many of these cancer cures, it's supposed to not work and put people to death, and they show people's noses that have been burned off with this and so on. If you are interested in learning about Sarah's story and the fact that she's alive and healthy, when they were going to cut her arm off and her leg off, talk to me, all right? God bless you all. Help me in this fight to get a cure for cancer instead of they're making money off of your sufferings. Thank you.
Oh, here we are. Thank you, sir. Okay. It's working now.
Because there are things like they talk about laetrile and apricot kernels. Don't put poisons in your body in order to poison the only reason these poisons work, for example, is that your immune system goes up to try to handle the poison, but you're doing damage to yourself. So don't use poisons like what you might have in apricot kernels, please, in order to try to kill cancer. It may work temporarily, but in the long run, you're going to hurt your body from the poison that you're ingesting. Okay, any questions, huh?
I'm afraid we ran a bit over time now, so we don't really have time for Q&A anymore.
Can we do a couple? Come on, don't we have a little time? Yeah, I mean, this is important. These people may die.
Now the boss is talking, okay?
I don't want anybody to die.
We have, unfortunately, this place, we need to have everything emptied out before 9 o'clock.
Oh.
So, but we have the panel debate later on today, and there you have possibility to ask questions also to Judyth. Okay?
Is that going to happen?
I'm very, very sorry.
Okay.
So what?
There, how about
Ah. Yeah. Okay, that's my secretary, huh? Shall we give him a big hand?
Okay.
Of course, if some of you, how many here can help afterwards? Perfect. Then we can do it in 1 hour. Okay, we take 15 minutes.
Okay, one piece of advice. If you're taking a mammogram, woman, don't do it. Do a thermogram. It doesn't squash your breasts. My friend in California stopped taking mammogram. She got a thermogram, and the thermogram found a cancer in her neck, and it saved her life. Of course, they never would have mammogrammed her neck, would they? So thermogram works because cancer cells are hotter, and it shows up, and then you can get it checked. You don't have to go through radiation. Okay, here we go. Any questions? No questions? I'm going.
No. Well, that's the thing. No questions now. No, because we have a break and we have to be very strict. So
he said we could have a few questions because they're going to help pull things down.
No, he said to do it later.
No, they'll forget. They'll forget.
Sorry, I don't mean to be rude.
Yeah.
It's just because I want to ask you, Judyth, I really want to know if there's been made any research with adaptogens like turmeric or ginger or gynostema.
They avoid this, but they do a little of it, but it gets ignored. The number one way to cure cancer, and I really wish I could tell you more, is called bacteriophage. It's a little bacteria. It looks a lot like the polio one. It looks like a little mosquito. It penetrates into cells. Because it can't be patented, because it's so easy to make as something that can kill cancer. Bacteriophage, phage in Greek means to eat. This is a virus that eats bacteria, and it has already been trained to go to cancer cells and to eat them. But no, instead, they've trained it to go and deliver pieces of chemical nanopackets of chemotherapy into these cells, because that they can make a lot of money off, instead of using the bacteriophage to go in directly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then another thing about the mercury and all the heavy metals and all that. Then I could recommend you take clays like zeolite and montmorillonite. Are you in for that or not?
All of those absorb, but what you're doing, you can coat the interior of you have to be very careful of what you're putting into your body. The easiest way is to don't do any more mackerel. Once this is inside of you, do not think that by absorbing kaolin and other clay products that you're talking about into your gut, that it's going to do something way over in your fingertips or in your nerves, in your brain. It doesn't get there, because the gut is porous, but it isn't going to reach those areas. You're talking about adding even more, because what you're talking about is loaded with aluminum, and one of the other things you need to avoid is like aluminum salts that they say have no aluminum, but they do. And rolling them under there. Our bodies are not used to aluminum because we never had it. Aluminum metal is not found on the Earth's surface. It is a processed thing like processed sugar. And our bodies can't handle it. When we put this aluminum inside of ourselves, it ends up being transported into the brain cells, and it forms these plaques. They're full of aluminum. that's where the body stores it, and it messes up your neurons, and it's always associated with Alzheimer's. So if you want to go and use aluminum under your arms or cook in aluminum pans, okay, that's the result because of being exposed to these metals. And unfortunately, the kaolinaceous earths you're talking about are loaded with a lot of aluminates. I wouldn't do it. Yeah.
You were talking about cancer in the polio sugars.
Yes.
I was given such a sugar as a
You've got
child.
it. Then you've got it.
So I got it?
Yeah.
Well, that's not good to know.
They're trying to say they weren't in all of them. Yes, they were, because they thought they were filtering out this virus. They were pushing it through ceramics. But remember I told you can unwind like thread? So it went right through the pores, and they didn't know it. They didn't know, because all the other viruses they would catch up there, little balls of it, you know.
A short comment to your saying about Monsanto in Denmark. Yes,
Yeah.
they are cooperating with Novozymes in Denmark. And I asked someone...
Kick them out. They don't care what happens to you.
I asked someone who I know works with Novozymes why they did this, and he said, oh, we're going to teach them to be better.
Yeah, right. Are there any other questions? Because I know we don't have much time.
Now you know all these people in power.
Yeah.
I think this is the whole thing we all fear, is the people who are so corrupt and so incredible evil. How do you think about this? Because what are we going to do?
Okay, what are we going to do? As long as we are, you have the best chance in the whole world, of anywhere I've ever been. Scandinavia has it. Why? You have a social democracy. You can vote people in.
We are just...
All right, then I'm gonna, that's all right.
No, but right now we are in a process where we are really into the bad.
Well,
so
this is happening in Sweden as well. I know that for a fact because I live there so often.
And people here are used to believe that our government is working for us, and it has shifted.
But I want to say something. There's still a better chance here than anywhere else that if you revolt, I can't use that word here. If you intervene.
No, but in which way?
If you intervene, the chances are they won't arrest all of you and they won't hit all of you over the head. That's not true anymore in the United States.
No, that's why, because I want to ask you, because you could be shot with this little pin thing.
Just for what I'm talking about now, I've had death threats. I mean, you know,
yeah.
There's one thing. What is one life worth? Oh, look at all of you. I'm not going to let you suffer. I mean, I wanted to cure cancer. My grandma died of it. This was what I wanted. They kicked me out of the program because I objected to using prisoners who were volunteering for these tests to find out if they would kill people. That's why I'm not in cancer research. They don't have any ethics. You could demand that scientists, demand that medical doctors take courses in ethics. You could do that. They don't know right from wrong. They do know the power of the crown. Okay, that they know. I'm going to say something else. It's a prediction. You're not going to like it. I say live the best lives you can. Spread the love, because we're not going to make it. The technology is against us. When you have only about 3% of the people that can do any good, they know who you are already, and at any time through any accident or any virus or whatever, when almost every program you see on TV is evil and filled with murder, find people that you can love, try and protect them. Maybe if we ignore them, and they are them, there's something wrong with them. They don't have the feelings in their hearts. They don't care. They've been bred from old families for generation after generation to only care about themselves. And the human race cannot exist unless we to find some way to divest them of power. But they do have so much power in their hands. I hope someone has the answer. All I can do is say I pray. Okay, that's it.
Thank you. Okay. one question
All
over
right,
here.
one last question.
This is then the last question.
About oxygen. If I were anybody over 50 and the law allowed it, I would be sleeping with oxygen every night. Your oxygen level goes down at night. There are funny things that people do. When people have a fever, they tend to cover people up because they feel like they're chilling. The chilling is trying to get the heat off the body. Wet their head and wet them down and let them scream that they're cold, but don't cover them when they have a fever, all right, to break the fever, all right? The other thing that's funny we don't take very good care of ourselves. For example, if you have people will open a window at night to get the cold, fresh air. That was because they used to have tuberculosis, and you could kind of heal yourself getting fresh air. Your lungs inside your body are a certain temperature, but they're bringing in this air all the time. If it's cold air, it cools off the surface of the lungs in there. When you catch a cold, it's because if you left food out all night and not put it in the refrigerator, and say you left it out, put it in the refrigerator during the day, but every night you left it out for, say, 3 nights, would you eat it? If you left it out overnight and it was like whipped cream or something that could spoil easily, and in your stomach, of course, you have hydrochloric acid to stop that. In your lungs, you're breathing in all kinds of things, dirt and germs and everything going on. At night, your lungs cool down. Your whole body cools down because you're resting, you're replenishing yourself. If the window is wide open and it's cold air coming in, your lungs cool off. Bacteria can grow like crazy under those situations. Then you get pneumonia, you get colds, you get flu. You see what I'm saying? Close your window, open it during the day, and get your circulated air. So take care of yourself. And so would you repeat your question?
Yeah, I have actually, like 2 questions. If we have any more questions, is there any way we can get in contact with you later?
Yeah.
And the most important question, is there, what is the best way
About
to
oxygen.
protect our children from getting cancer?
Unfortunately, most of them have this latent virus. Your children need more rest. You do too. Try and avoid stress. Take a lot of vitamin C. Eat your bright-colored vegetables and things. Number 1 thing you can do to save your child is to let them not even know that sugar exists. Sugar, if you could see, I could drop a little bit of sugar into a test tube and not here, and this one will go, it'll foam up so fast. Cancer loves sugar. Sugar is a chemical. Frankly, anything that you see that you can sprinkle like that as a chemical, monosodium glutamate or any of these glutamines, any of these things, the stevia is no good, people. Stevia, anything if it's an artificial sugar is no good either. Your body says, oh, sweet, sweet, but it's not sweet. So out comes insulin to deal with the sugar, and there isn't any. So you get very hungry and eat. You can get fat on your Diet Coke, okay? Because it's going to stimulate your appetite because you think you've got sugar, there isn't any, and you feel faint. You've got to eat something, you get some energy. It's a deadly circle. Oh, they love to promote this, the Coca-Cola and Pepsi and all this diet, because sugar is expensive. In the United States, they don't put sugar in the Cokes and things anymore. They use corn syrup, which gives you diabetes so fast you can blink and you can get it, okay? But it's cheaper. Anytime they can make the product cheaper and sell it to you at the same price. For making a bottle of Diet Coke and a bottle with sugar in it, this one costs so much less, it's ludicrous, but they sell it to you at the same price. They don't care that on lab tests we found out that aspartame causes cancer in mice. When they couldn't get aspartame, that is the fake sugar, okayed in the United States on the board of the Federal Drug Administration, this guy who was for it, he was bribed on the board himself. He got himself an extra member out there, and then he was allowed to vote himself. They voted it in by rigging the jury. It was all rigged. They ignored all the tests that showed that that stuff gives you cancer. Stay away from sugar, artificial sugar, and even too much fruit can give you too much sugar, okay? Your refined grains, like flour and all that, potato, they turn to sugar so quickly in your system you wouldn't believe it. Go natural, but cook it some. We've evolved too far to go to paleo, all right, completely. We don't have the grinders, we don't have the choppers, we don't have the big muscles in our heads. We are not Neanderthals, and it's really hard to if we don't. After all, we have evolved using fire for thousands of years now. So be good to your body, and don't give it too many harsh things now. You irritate your insides too much, it's just as bad. You can get cancer from any time you have inflammations. Reduce inflammation in your body. Even though aspirin is a little dangerous, if you fly, take an aspirin with your big meal, to reduce chances of blood clots. Take your vitamin omega-3, take your K2D3, that is your vitamin K with vitamin D3, not D2, D3. Because we're not getting enough, and you can't, if you expose your skin, we have so many toxins, you'll probably get melanoma. It isn't worth it. Take it by mouth. Most of you I've talked to, you're taking some weird things that are not really very good for you, because somebody's convinced you online to buy their expensive product. The more it costs, the more chance it isn't going to do you any good. All right? I'm serious. Okay, I hope I've helped you. I want to cure cancer, at least if I save somebody. It really doesn't matter. If you hear bad things about me or read bad things about me, just remember, my heart bleeds for you, and I'm doing this for you. I'm 72. There are other things I really like to do, like see my grandchildren. I have 3 of my children won't even speak to me. No. So, I'm a grandma, and I can't see your grandchildren. So I love you. Okay.
Give it up a big applause for Judyth. Thank you so much.